Welcome, everyone, to the Committee of the Whole Board meeting of January 7th, 2025. We acknowledge we are meeting on the traditional land of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is represented by the communities of Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We also think that the Métis Nation of Ontario, whose history and people are well represented in Bruce and Grey counties. We have received regrets this evening from Trustee Kaikonen, and we are joined online by Trustee Morgan and Trustee McComb, and welcome. Is there any new business to be added to our agenda this evening? I see none. So could I have a mover that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole Board meeting of January 7th, 2025 be approved as printed? Thank you, Trustee Newts. All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on any of the items on our agenda for you? See none. There are no delegations this evening, and that takes us to our reports for recommendations. And as you can see, we have a number of field trips that are before us tonight, so it'll be exciting to listen to them all. First, I'll invite Superintendent Lefebvre to speak to the first report, but I'll look for a mover that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Georgian Bay Community School students participate in the field trip pursuits program, Bruce Trail, Cypress, Peterborough and Kawartha Highlands and Temagami, April 29th to May 2nd, May 27th to 30th, and June 12th to 22nd. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Morgan, and welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to turn this over to students and their current students, probably our veteran field trip presenter, and she's going to be talking a little bit about the Georgian Bay trip coming up.
The Pursuit program is a transformative educational initiative offered at Georgian Bay Community School as part of the specialist high skills major in the environment. It allows senior students to step beyond the traditional classroom, combining academics with experiential learning. In this philosophy, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. The program fosters personal growth, leadership, and a deep connection to the environment. Students engage in integrated coursework, certifications, and challenging outdoor adventures that encourage resilience, teamwork, and lifelong memories. The first trip, the Bruce Trail and Cypress hiking trip, which takes place from April 29th to May 2nd, is a 4-day excursion that immerses students in the stunning natural landscapes of the Bruce Peninsula National Park. Beyond hiking, students develop flat water canoe skills on Cypress and Cameron Lakes. Blending adventure with skill building, the trip emphasizes environmental stewardship and the importance of exploring and protecting local natural spaces. The Peterborough trip, scheduled from May 27th to May 30th, combines outdoor education with career exploration. Over 3 days, students engage in leadership activities, traditional workshops, and certifications like ICE, Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. This trip undergoes the program's holistic approach, connecting outdoor experiences with future career aspirations in the environment and related fields. The Temagami canoe trip, running from June 12th to June 22nd, is an 11-day journey that is the ultimate test of the students' skills, fitness, and teamwork. Set in the pristine wilderness of the Temagami region, students apply all that they've learned throughout the program, from canoeing to group dynamics. It is both a physical and emotional challenge, leaving participants with lifelong memories and a profound sense of accomplishment. And we hope that you approve it, because they're
Thank you so much. Do trustees have any questions or comments? Trustee Linz.
Thank you so much for the presentation, not question. And I know these are always fantastic trips. I just have one question, given the timing of some of the canoeing. Will there be any cold water preparation? Like, I know they do a swim test in a pool, but given that the temperature of water they're canoeing in for some of that time will be very cold, is there any cold water preparation before they go?
Thank you. I believe that there is work done by the teacher there, in terms of discussing what to do in situations, because they are, again, canoeing in April, so there are still cold water there. There's still cold water that they're dealing with, but again, I don't think that I know that there's work that's done, but I don't think that there's any specialized cold water training that I'm aware of. Other than, I mean, obviously, we're training around hypothermia, how to deal with hypothermia, and the people that are there that are trained in that, in what to do and to deal with that situation.
If I understand it too, when I read it, it would appear that some of that might be an experience they would get up in Cyprus on the flat water, canoeing when they're doing some of that practice for the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any other questions or comments, Trustee Atkinson?
That sounds like a wonderful trip. I would just like to know what course is IDC for you. I looked in the sheet that was sent out, but I couldn't find the I.
Sorry, so to respond through the chair, that is an interdisciplinary course, so.
I couldn't find it.
Student trustee White.
Well, guys, it's not, it's on the side. Needs to be turned on.
Hi, guys.
No, she's flashing.
All right, you should. It's not active, it's okay.
Give me 1 second here. We'll give you something to work with. Oops, I know why. The cup is in the. Probably the other sensor. There you go. You're welcome.
All right, I just want to say this sounds like a really fun trip. I know we have a similar thing at my school. The students really enjoy it. I'm just wondering, is this a only 1 semester course? Is this a course or is it 2 semesters? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, the Pursuits program happens every year in the second semester for mainly grade 11 students. It's not like every other year. First semester is often grade 10s. Other ed programming then after is the Pursuits program.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see any. It was moved by trustee Morgan that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval the Georgian Bay Community School students participated in the field trip pursuits program, Bruce Trail, Cypress, Peterborough, Bortha Hut, and Temagami, April 29th to May 2nd, 2025, May 27th to 30th, 2025, and June 12th to 22nd, 2025. All in favor? Thank you, that was carried. Our next trip is Superintendent LaFave will speak to this. Put up with the motion on the floor that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Blue Water summer school students participate in the civics and careers travel for credit, Ottawa, Montreal, and New York, July 17th to 24, 2025. Could I have a mover? Trustee Johnstone, and go ahead, Superintendent McPhee.
Thank you very much, Chair and trustees. So I'll present the first trip is the Travel for Credit Civics and Careers. This trip is going to Ottawa, Montreal, and New York. It is very similar to the trip that we looked at last year, except this builds in the New York components. And the New York component will provide them an opportunity to visit Ellis Island, the Statue of Liberty, and other key aspects of New York, especially as they relate to civics. This is a wonderful opportunity for our students. It has been obviously developed with those credits in mind, civics and careers. We have a number of students last year, the response back was overwhelming in terms of the support for this, both from parents and from students. The demand was immense. So we wanted to offer, what we did was we scaled back on this particular trip. And we're doing one we're doing one trip to civics and careers, Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto, and the other one's gonna be a communications technology to Toronto and New York City. So now we've divided into the two trips. And we feel it's a good value for what is being offered to the students. We know the price. When we first look at that, it looks high. But we have prices that we've talked to EF Tours extensively about the costs. We've looked for ways to reduce those costs. We feel like we have a really good package here for our students, and we know that we have a lot of interest in the trip. There's also going to be a potential, we've been talking with EF Tours, a potential $150 off for people who sign up relatively early, within a couple of weeks of the first opportunity to. So that's a little bit more savings for those families as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think you've got a rather complete package in terms of the itinerary, safety plans, everything like that. The only thing that has not been determined is exactly which staff would be going on these trips. We have a number of chaperones that are, that would be willing to help out in this case, but in terms of the hiring of the teachers involved, that has not happened because that needs to be done through our regular HR processes. So that would be posted, people would apply, and then those would be the people that would kind of finalize and fine tune some of the curriculum and expectations of the students to be following. We have a lot of reflective journaling and work that's going to be done on the trip. So students will be, when they return to the rooms, they'll be doing the lesson work expectations for them, even on the trip. But a lot of the work will be done ahead of time in an online course environment, just like our semester credits.
Trustee Leeds.
Thank you. Through the chair, I did notice is a price increase over last year, and I do understand inflation and just that the cost of everything is a lot right now. Although I know there was some conversation about room occupancy, I was just wondering if you could talk about that and about, if you can, the price comparison. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So in terms of costs, when we reached out to EF Tours and asked them for some clarifications about the increase, they did indicate to us that they've experienced a huge shortage of drivers ever since COVID, and it's only seemed to have gotten worse. And that's obviously driven up expenses because they had to pay drivers more to attract them into positions. So it costs them more, and then there's also just general inflation that has driven up some of the costs. In terms of the rooms, what we found with last year's trip is because you're attracting and you're promoting this across the whole system, then you've got 42 schools, or let's say 9 secondary schools who are interested in this. So you've got students from all over the system who are interested in this trip. And by putting 4 in a room, they don't necessarily all know each other really well. So 4 in a room, I think might work well in a school setting where everyone knows each other and you're all part of maybe the same cohort or everything. But if you're coming from different schools, it is a little different because you don't necessarily know these people super well. You get to be friends by the end of the trip, but it might just make it a little more awkward for those that week that you might be rooming together. So we've gone with a 2 per room instead of a 4 per room. That was coming from feedback that we had last year from students and from families, saying that might make it a little more palatable for people. And then also there is the expectation at the end of each day that the students are doing some reflective journaling. So if you've got 4 in a room, it's probably gonna be a little more awkward. There's gonna be a little more conversation and probably maybe less work happening. So we would like to think that with 2 in the room, that maybe there's more likelihood that they might get that reflective journaling done as well. So it makes it a little easier for chaperoning as well, when you've got 2 in a room versus 4 in a room, I can tell you that. The additional cost is about $180, so it added $180 to the fee, when we went to 2 in a room versus 4.
Trustee Morgan?
I'd like to make a comment. We are the Blue Water District's public school board, and I still feel that these 2 trips that are being brought up now are students buying a credit. There are a lot of people in our neighborhood, all across the board, who are not able to afford $3,600 for 8 days for their children, plus adding spending money on top of that. And I still have a real problem with this, and I would like it considered more. Thank you.
Other trustees have comments or questions? Trustee Leeds?
This is kind of to follow up trustee Morgan's comment. Are there opportunities for funding beyond? Well, there's some funding opportunities that I learned about recently, but I don't know what age they go up to. So it's just, are there, I'll call it bursary scholarship type options for students who can't, because I do know at our co-terminus board, there were some options for that last year. So are there options for that for students? Thank you.
So for this particular trip, there are no, I do not have any courses or anything available through my department. I know that as the principal in a school, if I was approached, I would certainly, I would certainly help students to navigate, perhaps writing a letter to a service club or something in their area to be able to support them. That certainly is a possibility, and a number of service clubs in the school areas where I work as a principal, we're very generous in terms of helping to support students who might want to go on a trip such as this. That would be my best suggestion for them, but no, we do not have a money set aside to provide funding for this.
Trustees have any other questions, comments? I don't see any. It was moved by trustee Johnstone that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Blue Water summer school students participate in the civics and career travel for credit, Ottawa, Montreal, and New York, July 17th to 24 of 2025. All in favor? Karen, is your hand up? Okay. And that's carried. The next one is the Blue Water Summer School Communications Technology Travel for Credit. So looking for a mover that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Blue Water Summer School students participate in the Communications Technology Travel for Credit, Toronto and New York City, July 14th to 25th, 2021. Trustee Lutz?
Thank you, Chair. So again, I just want to emphasize that we're really sending no more students than we did last year on these travel for credit trips. We just split it into 2 separate trips. So this one is travel for credit and it's communication technologies connection with the curriculum, and it's to both Toronto and New York. And you'll see by the trips that they're gonna be taking and what they're gonna be visiting and looking at in both the cities, obviously both Toronto and New York. Very heavily based arts communities in both areas. They were able to see quite a bit and be able to learn quite a bit about movies, films, TV, all of those aspects of communications technology. I think it's going to be a fabulous trip for those students. Again, very similar setup for our trip, as I explained for the previous one, visiting those two cities. This one again is to Toronto and New York City.
Trustee Lutz?
So I have a question, because it looks like a fantastic trip. Although I see a couple of missed opportunities, and I'll speak to them separately, just keep them separate, but the first is about the fact that in both Toronto and New York, there are some fantastic opportunities to see publicly funded television versus privately funded. And that would, there is a difference in how they're made and the content that's included and things like that. And I noticed that it was just privately funded things I was seeing, so they're missing TVO, CBC, PBS. And the incredible things are done there, and even the very different ways that they are produced and made and things like that. So I'm just wondering if it's possible for students to be exposed to both types of products.
Thank you for the question. I have to go back to the team who really looked at this final itinerary with the tours and see whether that's a possibility or not.
But I'll be.
Student trustee Lutz?
I have two questions.
Yeah.
So the first one, I'm just wondering, how many years have you guys been doing these field trips for? Is it new or? And my second question is, how do you decide which students get to go on these? Do you receive like a large number of applicants for it? Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you very much, student trustee White. So what happens, this is the second year we've offered these. It has been offered by a number of other boards have done travel for credit, including our co-tournament board who have offered this in the past, and we've had students who go on those trips. Last year, we opted to do this ourselves. We had overwhelming support for it and a lot of from the communities and from the people who were able to attend. The way it works is it's really first come, first served. So there's a time where there's an information session. It's open to everyone. No one signed up ahead of time. There's an information session, and then it's kind of the clock starts, and it's whoever wants to go and put down the deposit, then it's the first 40 people in this case who would be able to go on the trip.
Any other trustees with questions? Trustee Lutz?
I apologize, because first I have a quick follow-up, given that answer. How many students were waitlisted last year?
That I don't have off the top of my head. I know when we stopped the numbers, we had, I think it was 80, we were able to bump it up slightly because we had enough room on the bus, and I think I came back with the trustee report saying we bumped that up. And then that was it. I had a number who came afterwards. I don't think we kept more than 5 or 6 on the wait list because we kind of said that's it. We don't have any people have committed. By that point, people have submitted a deposit. We knew that they weren't going to back out.
And another question just about the content, because I know this is all about TV production, and I don't know if that's what the course is about. But I was just wondering if there would be anything about radio production, podcast production, like, those are the two big ones I was thinking about, especially with the Toronto CBC offices right there and Toronto Metropolitan University having huge connections, to that and with radio production and that, again, a fascinating difference between television. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Again, with communications technology, I mean, they could spend probably 80 days on a field trip and study so many different things. At some point, they've got to kind of decide, like, well, so if podcasts didn't make it on, it's only because they only have so much time. So I mean, they're in the art museum, they're doing the TV tours, movie production, interactive workshops, they're in Times Square, they visited a Broadway show. I mean, they can only, and NBC Studio, they can only do so much. I agree, podcasting would be amazing to look at, but I think at some point they just had to decide, and these are all applicable to communications technology. It's a fascinating course, very broad and far-reaching.
I have a question. How many of our high schools offer, this course?
Communications technology, I don't have a figure right off the top of my head. I'm gonna think, I'll look to my colleagues, probably 7, maybe 6 or 7 of them. Well, most do. I mean, it might just be 1 or 2 that don't, but they might offer it every other year or something along those lines.
I asked just, in the high schools that it is not offered. I think of a young woman, from Bruce Peninsula who's now graduated, who would have, this was what she was trying to create for herself, for an experience for her future career. So I would hope that we would make sure that those schools that don't have those programs offered, that those kids have an opportunity to hear about it very clearly if there's somebody like her that would really benefit from the programming and what's being offered.
That's an excellent point, and just to, I'll turn to my colleagues over there. I see that, like, Natasha Kordick here is one of our central teachers here, and she's in a number of the schools. I know that our guidance staff, as well as and people that report to Kim Parkinson, learning service administrator, we know who these students are. So the guidance will be keeping an eye out for this. They will also be, kind of looking for and telling us, this is the student that needs to go on this trip. And, then we work with those schools to try to figure out ways to make that happen.
That's great.
It's clear from some of the comments that trustees are concerned about the cost and about the fact that $3,600 makes it an elitist opportunity. You mentioned that students might have the opportunity, and you might recommend they pursue this, to speak to service clubs. Has the board, or have you, reached out to service clubs independent of that and said, look, here's an amazing important program we have here, and we're worried about the fact that we're restricting it to those families with lots of money. Could you possibly chip in on an annual basis a significant portion of what the cost would be? In other words, have we proactively reached out to the service clubs to say, can you help us with this?
Thank you. We have not done that. We really feel like service clubs are serving those communities, and it really is the school communities that they know those service club members and the presidents of those service clubs. Like when I worked in Thornbury, I knew exactly who to talk to. So that's my job as a principal. When I see something that's come up and maybe there's an impediment for a student, then I'm looking to figure out how to overcome that. And I think our principals and our guidance staff do an amazing job at that. So we're not I feel if we do that from a system level, it doesn't have the same meaning or effect as it does coming from someone in the community.
Well, I would just say that if we do it on a system level, an outreach to the major service clubs, and if they opt to fund these programs on a regular basis, that would be phenomenal benefit. And it would help those service clubs as well, many of whom deal with people throughout Lewis and Gray counties. So I think it should be considered.
I would just like to add, our service clubs do so much. I mean, we have a local newspaper and I read about the donations that are coming from our service club to our schools and students. And that's one community that's happening throughout Grand Bruce, it's happening throughout the province. So I think we have to respect and be thankful for what they do and the opportunities that may come along individually for a student also. Are there any other questions or comments? Student trustee White.
Last question. I was just wondering, how does this trip get broadcasted to the students in the schools? Thank you.
Thank you. So this is done, I think last year we did this through a numbered memo to all of the secondary schools, and then another memo asked the principals to then action that to broadcast that. So typically we'll do that through like a school messenger saying this that's available for, you know, students in these grades. Here's what the chart looks like, you know, a brief message, something along those lines, an email, a text. Oftentimes we'll have our guidance staff absolutely post that. A lot of our schools have got community boards on their, you know, information on their guidance bulletin boards. Things like that will go out. There'll be announcements that'll be made within schools asking students to participate. Last year we did information sessions that were done on Teams, so any parents could participate. They were typically done, I think, 5:30 in the afternoon, or one was even in the evening. So we had a couple of information sessions where the person from the tours would walk them through what the tour looks like, what they were going to be doing, and then the costs and how that worked, all of the details. And then people signed up.
If I could too, I would add, you're here, as are your colleagues, so that's another avenue for you to share the information back with your fellow students. Are there any other comments? I see none. It was moved by trustee Boots that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Blue Water summer school students participate in the communications technology travel for credit, Toronto and New York City, July 14th to 25th, 2025. All in favor? Thank you, guys. Carried.
It wants to go.
Our next, we have, next we have another, field trip, and, Superintendent Gunnar Lipset will speak to this report. First I'll put it on, the floor that Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Grey Highlands Secondary School students participate in the Environmental Studies Program field trips, Blusherton Pond Basic Canoe Instruction Day 1, April 29th, 2025. Blusherton Pond Basic Canoe Instruction Day 2, April 30th, 2025. Cypress Lake Camping Trip, May 7th to 9th, 2025. Bells Lake Canoe Trip, May 13th, 2025. Blusherton Pond Solo Canoe Instruction Day 1, May 14th, 2025. Blusherton Pond Solo Canoe Instruction Day 2, May 15th, 2025. Massasauga Provincial Park Canoe Trip, May 21st to 24th, 2025. And Killarney Provincial Park, June 8th to 14th, 2025. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Johnston, welcome.
Thank you. So I will turn it over to student trustee White to give you a description of this trip. This is, as you mentioned, the Grey Highlands Secondary School Environmental Studies Program, otherwise known as ESP program. You will maybe recall that we have brought this trip forward a year over year as part of their ESP program.
Prairie Highlands Secondary School is excited to continue the Environmental Studies Program, ESP, again this year. ESP gives students the opportunity to learn outside of a traditional classroom, gain crucial outdoor experiences and skills, make lifelong lasting friendships, and create great memories. This year, students will be going canoeing at Budgerton Pond, Bells Lake, and Massasauga Provincial Park. They will be camping at Cypress Lake, Killarney Provincial Park, and Massasauga Provincial Park. These ESP trips highlight the Earth's ecosystems, the impact that human contact has on the environment, leadership skills, and so much more. A friend of mine has been participating in the environmental specialist high school major for 2 years now. Last year, she was part of the ESP class, and this year she is completing a co-op with the junior ESP class at Grey Highlands Secondary School. She mentioned how ESP provided flexibility in high school and taught her first aid, fire safety, not tying, fire safety, water safety, and a lot more. She talks about it very, very often and her time in the bush. She also mentioned how ESP program allows students to participate in activities that they may have never gotten the chance to do before this program. The environmental studies field trips are so engaging and beneficial for all the students at Grey Highlands Secondary School. Please find the emergency safety plans and all details within the field trip packages provided to you.
Do trustees have questions or comments? Trustee Luke?
Thank you so much for the great presentation and for sharing, well, I guess through your secondhand account, but a first-hand account of the trip. It sounds fantastic. I have one safety question, because it's about, waiting during the trip, so basically swimming of sorts, and it says that, flotation devices will be worn by students, and I just wanted to make sure that will be 100% guaranteed that they will be wearing them. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? This program's been going on for so long. I know trustees have heard this presentation many times. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. And if it's okay with trustees, I am not going to repeat the whole motion. But it was moved by trustee Johnstone. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And our next one is a cultural exchange program. And Superintendent Fenner will speak to this report. But first, I'd like a mover to put on the floor that Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Eastridge Community School students participate in the cultural exchange to Alberta, May 25th to 31st. Trustee Lutz.
Thank you. So you will notice there are 4 cultural exchange trips in your package. 2 of these trips are occurring on the dates that are just mentioned, May 25th to 31st. One being Eastridge, which was just alluded to, and the other is Alexandra Community School. Alexandra and Eastridge would be traveling together on this trip. You have separate packages because it's separate schools, separate chaperones, and so forth. But those 2 schools would be together on this trip. So this trip is offered through the cultural exchange program that we have talked with you about before, where students have the opportunity to travel from here to Alberta and join up with students at, in this case, it's Percy Baxter Middle School, to participate in community events, learn about the history, the culture of that area, and spend some time together there. And then the students from Alberta have an opportunity to come back here to our area later in June to participate and learn about Grey Bruce and do activities here. So it is an exchange where our students go and the students do return. We have offered several of these exchanges across the district. I've been fortunate enough to chaperone one myself. And also have one of my children participate, and then I was able to host students back at my home. They're really interesting, insightful opportunity, the connections made, the learning that can happen by visiting different communities and seeing different cultures. And also, because it's through this program, you can see there's a great subsidy available. So the cost is fairly affordable for the experience that the students are participating in. So that's an overview, because all four of, although these are coming for separate, these are all going to the same location and they're all returning back to Blue Water. There's just different dates to allow for this to occur. So we started with Eastridge, which is the May 25th to 31st, and they'll be traveling with Alexandria Community School. And then Amabel Sobel will be traveling with the French immersion students from Eastridge. So there are two packages.
Do trustees have any questions about the exchange? Trustee Lucas?
Thank you. It's been a while since we've had these come up, so I just have a question, and it's about all of them.
Yeah, sure.
Do the Blue Water students participate in all the activities that are done when their exchange partners come back?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. The 2 trips for the price of 1.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see any. So we have 4 motions to put on the floor, but we won't revisit the details of the trip for each of them. So first, it was moved by trustee Leeds that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Eastridge Community School students participate in the cultural exchange to Alberta, May 25th to 31st, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Next, I'm looking for a mover that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Eastridge Community School students participate in the cultural exchange to Alberta French immersion, June 8th to 14th. Could I remove trustee Atkinson? All in favor? Yeah, that's carried. Next, could I have a mover that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Alexandra Community School students participate in the cultural exchange to Alberta, May 25th to 31st, 2025. Steve Craig? All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And lastly, could I have a mover that the Blue Water District School Board consider for approval that Amabel Sobel Community School students participate in the grade 8 Alberta Exchange, June 8th to 14th, 2025. Trustee Lutz? All in favor? Thank you, that is carried. I'd just like to make a comment to thank our staff. This represents a lot of work and a lot of opportunities for our students. So just to thank everyone for their time and the effort that was put into all of this. Thank you. I'll pass that along. There are no committee reports this evening. Are there any new notice of motion? I see none. Ahead of myself. So reports for information. The first is our new teacher induction program, and I would like to invite Superintendent Flowers to speak to this report.
Okay, so every year we have new teachers, that take up positions on our board. Some of them are long-term occasional positions, some of them are permanent. And, in alignment with the Ministry of Ontario, Education of Ontario expectations, we provide new teacher, the new teacher implementation program, providing mentoring for our teachers, in our school. I'm going to turn things over to, Karen Sprague, and she's going to introduce a member of our team. We're going to talk about what we're doing that's slightly different part of this program, which is the reception program.
We're going to talk about the details because I'm going to hand it over to Natasha Cordick, secondary assistant curriculum lead teacher, Leanne Stroderick. Another assistant curriculum lead teacher is responsible for JK through grade 12. And I call them the amazing program and student success team, and you're about to see how amazing they are.
Thank you so much for the opportunity of sharing where we are with NTIP this year. So as a result of the feedback that we received from previous participants of the NTIP program, they mentioned and underlined for us that sometimes the NTIP program, the way that it was happening was repetitive because sometimes they were doing NTIP as an STL teacher or as a longitudinal teacher, and also when they got their permanent placement as a classroom teacher. And so we wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity of having some voice and choice in the opportunities that they had for their new teacher induction program participation. And they also, the other piece that was stood out to us from the feedback was that many of the much of the material that we were presenting was very theoretical in nature, and they really wanted the hands-on and actually even in the classroom. And so in response to that, we revamped sort of our approach to the NTIP program, and this graphic captured most of what we're hoping to accomplish this year. And we moved from sort of a central governed one single day right through to getting participants multiple days to use as they wish with their mentor teacher. So you see here on the graphic, the central day was one day, and they also had another day that we requested and required.
It's advanced, the slide.
Oh. It's not coming.
Is it low?
Thank you for the
Thanks.
So while Karen is working her technology magic, okay, so you see from this graphic that there's 4 components to the way that we've structured our NTIP program. Every NTIP teacher, regardless of their teaching assignment in terms of whether they're full-time or part-time, they receive 7 days of vocational teacher coverage for their program, each participant does. And so from this model, they get 1 day, there's a central session that's all about what it means to be a teacher in Bluewater. The second day is really an assessment focus that is self-directed with their mentor, so they can explore things like growing success, which is the ministry policy relating to assessment and evaluation, and a slew of other things that they have the option to choose between amongst. Then the sections that are in green represent the areas of choice. Natasha's going to talk more about the professional learning communities momentarily. But the other 3 days with the collaboration with their mentor, they get 3 days to use as they wish with their mentor teacher. And the intention behind those 3 days is that it is work that they complete with their mentor around things like observation in classrooms. They can do some moderated marking, which means that they would be co-marking and collaborating with their mentor teacher, professional learning, participation in webinars, ministry material that is provided, the opportunity to go deeply into some of the material that perhaps they're understanding and realizing they need to spend more time with. So I'll switch it over to Natasha for her to talk about the PLC benefits.
So at the end of the first central session, we had all of the central staff come in and talk about the possible PLCs that we could possibly offer for our instant teachers. And then we had them complete a survey. And Leanne, can you go to that? You'll see these are the 7 different areas that we provided for our teachers. And they had an opportunity to complete a survey to rank the sessions based on their choice and their need. We were able to provide most teachers with their first choice. However, there were a few that did get their second choice. You'll see that some of these boxes are in green and the others are in center.
The sessions in green did not run due to lack of interest. It's not that there wasn't any interest at all, it's just we didn't have quite enough interest. So we were able to incorporate some of classroom management as well as the RRP into each of the other sessions that we provided. So the sessions in the dark blue are the sessions that we actually ran. The sessions themselves were held either centrally here at the board office, or some were also offered within schools themselves. Those that were offered in schools allowed an opportunity to co-develop lessons for the actual day. And they would go in, this is more your area, so they go into the classroom and actually and run the lesson, and then they'd be able to talk about that afterwards. Other sessions allow teachers to create activities, gather some student evidence, so like go away, try some activities, gather some student evidence, come back. We were able to engage in some moderation and collaborative planning with their colleagues. And what we recognized is that the small group format provided a more focused approach to address the specific needs and created a lot of great opportunities for collaboration. Maybe. Up there, great. So we collected feedback at the end of the sessions, and granted, not every session has run its entirety at this point, but we have started collecting some information, and the feedback has been very positive so far. Participants have really appreciated the opportunity to choose sessions that align with their interests and needs, as well as the opportunity to collaborate with colleagues across the board. And they've really enjoyed the small group format. We, like Leanne and I, as well as the other central teachers and our Bear and the coordinator, have recognized that the smaller groups foster richer discussions. We've had really great discussions, and the participants seem to feel more comfortable sharing their challenges, their successes, their ideas, and then also asking questions. At this point, we're going into our second round. Actually, next Wednesday, Leanne and I are offering our first session. And there are 10 teachers, actually, I think it's really 8, in the second group. And in this second group, all of the teachers decided to choose the Thriving in the Classroom option. So this will be co-facilitated by Leanne and I, and this is going to give us an opportunity to touch on both elementary and secondary perspectives, but also bring in elements of, can we just go back one slide? We'll be able to bring in elements of all of these different areas into one. Just like we have much smaller. And that's it. I don't think you were thanking me.
Do trustees have questions or comments? Well, I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
I'm really proud that Blue Water is doing this work. I'm aware of another board where new teachers aren't getting the same support, and we should be very proud of that. And I know that you're also supporting new teachers that wouldn't even fit within these criteria necessarily, but have taken on a longer term placement, but not wouldn't have started at the beginning of the year, for example, but I know that they have received support, so bravo, it's really
Can I
important.
offer one other thing, just kind of, you just triggered me a little bit. We've also offered teachers the opportunity to take a second session and use 2 of their additional days if they so desire to take a second session. And we've had a number of teachers take us up on that. So it really does show us that there is not only a need, but a desire for the position.
Yeah, trustee Craig.
I like to think of principals and vice principals as principal teachers. They obviously have that kind of leadership role in their schools. So I'd like to know how they are integrated with your program, so they can actively support new teachers.
So specifically, the new teacher induction program is intended for the beginner novice
educators. But certainly the principals work hand in glove with supporting what that looks like in the classroom. And they're instrumental in asking lots of questions about what is being learned at the session, how it's being implemented. So certainly they are well informed and very up to date on how things are rolling out with NSTEP and how they can support their teachers in their buildings and make it as successful for everybody as possible.
Through the chair, the principals also help to find appropriate mentors for the new teachers as well. Sometimes a teacher, for example, if you're a French teacher at a school, you may be the only teacher that teaches French. And so connecting you with a French teacher in another school is something that's done either through the principal and Karen facilitates that as well as a learning service administrator. We know through the research that when teachers have agency in choosing their professional development and when they're doing professional development based on the students in their class in front of them, that it has far greater impact and much more longevity in the uptake of that professional learning. And so switching to this model is proving to us to be very, very powerful and aligning with what the research tells us.
Good.
Trustee Rich.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Well, it's not very quick, but I'm just wondering what's all involved, I guess, in your inclusive education part, the culturally responsive teaching and equity.
We didn't run the session. Do I want to share? Can you describe a bit what? Yes, we didn't actually run that session specifically. So what we do is we focus on culturally relevant, responsive pedagogical practices. Depending on the interests of the teacher, we would bring in particularly some anti-Black racism. We could bring in Indigenous ways of knowing and so on. But we are offering, and I don't know, I'm hoping, Keith, I'm not speaking out of turn here. We are going to offer some fairly significant professional development for Indigenous ways of knowing and in the upcoming months. And that's kind of separate from this particular professional development.
So what Natasha mentioned around integrating the two green options into the blue sessions that did run. For example, I ran the assessment and evaluation for elementary teachers. And a large portion of my planning revolved around the equity around issues of assessment. So looking at triangulation of data, which means we're looking at conversations, observations, and products that students are creating, and really making sure that teachers understand the issues of equity in the area such as assessment or the issues of equity in terms of, supporting all learners or whatever the particular professional learning community was that they were running.
I think they all offered some aspect of this. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was
Sorry,
Sorry.
Jane, apologies. Am I able to ask one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
Just to go off of what they were saying. So, I just have I guess a clarification question. So do they just get to choose this particular aspect or is it mandatory?
So the central day, the day one was a mandatory for all NTIP new teacher induction program participants. The second day was self-directed, but we asked that all of their activities related to assessment, and we gave some suggestions on what they could do. The professional learning communities, they were able to choose from what you see on the screen. So they had a choice there, and all of those sessions were 2 days. One session had an optional third day for those that were interested. And then the final component, which was entirely driven by the educator, they could choose to work with their mentor. They could choose to read a professional resource and implement it into their classroom. That was entirely self-directed. So they did have lots of choice of what materials they wanted to spend their time with, through also having guidance from us on areas that required some support, such as assessment, such as equity, such as classroom management, those sorts of things as well, that typically all teachers can benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And next, I'd like to invite Superintendent LaFave to speak to the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program Level Up Built On.
Thank you, Chair, trustees, guests. I'm going to invite Justin Rand on board. He is our OEM recruiter, and he is going to be sharing with us some of the things that have been going on recently within the area. If you were able to attend on November 13th, the Build Dream session here in Chesley at the Bruce Power Training Center. It was absolutely fantastic seeing all those young ladies and a lot of moms and dads who were there with them as well in the evening, looking at and exploring the wonderful opportunities in the trades for them. And I am very proud of the fact that over the years, both Dave Barrett and Justin has continued this. We have probably one of the highest rates of women entering the trades and apprenticeships in the province. We're very proud of that. And so I'll have Justin come up and you can start while and provide me an opportunity to get this up.
Good evening. Thanks for having me and kind of looking forward to sharing what we're doing with the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. So this is the Build a Dream event that Keith was referring to earlier. So it did occur on November 13th, 2024, and it was a tremendous success. We had 90 attendees during the day and 205 attendees in the evening. So this included students and parents and guardians. The event inspired 73% of attendees to consider career paths they hadn't previously imagined and increased the interest in skilled trades and STEAM fields. With 86% expressing enthusiasm for attending similar events in the future. Highlights included an engaging panel discussion with local women that represent the trades, interactive booths, positive feedback, insights into the value of hands-on learning, and support for diverse career paths. So just some OEM information. So we are at 440 participants in our program for the 2023-2024 school year. And similar to, again, what Keith was saying at the start, we're always looking to maintain and grow. So kind of maintain those numbers, making sure we're being equitable, but also looking at some of the demographic that might some more events to show them kind of what's out there for them, and then also to grow. So kind of evaluating what we've been doing, looking for different avenues that we might want to take to see kind of different opportunities we can also offer the students in our board. And then finally, just the community partnerships. We're fortunate enough to have a small knit community. I grew up here, live here, want to stay here. So making sure we're connected with the community partners, just making sure we're connecting with the students and making sure they have that opportunity to guys stay in the community if they wish so, and just have everything available to them. So this was our other event. So this was Level Up. So it was on the news. So it is sponsored by the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development. So for all Ontario, they offer this event for school boards to attend. So we sent 388 students to participate in this Level Up event. So this event day was held in London. So the students got to go there, and the main goal was for them to experience hands-on learning. So they got to go there, and you can see from the pictures that are shown there, all the different kind of avenues they got to take. But there was welding demos, bricklaying, pipe soldering, sheet metal work, hairdressing, culinary skills, and then some edge factor VR, amongst some other opportunities they got to try. And this is our second season of the OYAP Porter Wednesday videos. So I believe I showed you one last time I was here. So it is fun to go out and again with that community aspect of it, going to different people that are in an apprenticeship, either maybe they're on their level 2 or level 3, or some of them are done and kind of working at their own jobs. In this case, this is William Days, who we hired as our outreach outreach facilitator. So he's in charge of our Skills Opportunity Showcase trailer, but as well as going into school and providing some more of those hands-on aspects of it. So I can play the video. Yeah, so as you can see, we like to keep it pretty candid. But yeah, that was Will. So he did graduate from Blue Water, and we're fortunate enough to have him on kind of our team here. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees have questions or comments? I was just wondering when you mentioned the 440 students, how does that compare the percentage of students from Blue Water participating to other boards? Do you have a sense?
Not percentage based sense, but we are one of the higher boards that that definitely offer that many students the having the role that we have.
Trustee Atkins.
I mentioned this a couple of meetings ago, but for you, Justin, to hear it firsthand. You were at Spruce Ridge a couple of years ago, and I had a very special little friend that you touched with changing the tires, and he applied himself. Well, during the first snowstorm we had, of course, I was not diligent in getting my snow tires on like everyone else was, and that said student came to my home, changed my tires, because now since you were at that school, you inspired him. He's clean, he's going to class, he's taking classes, but it's because that SOS truck that has literally changed his outlook on school. And when I offered to pay him, he just said, thank you. We're worried. So I just wanted to share that with you. You are making, that trailer is making an impact on students' lives, whether you see it directly or indirectly. Job well done.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's the stories we're looking for. Thank you for sharing that.
For as long as I can remember. You know, I have a lousy memory. I've got a lot of years. And I've been aware, that there's, let's call it a prejudice in our society against the trades. As opposed to, going to university and going off into high-paid occupations. So my question is, do you think OYAT and other initiatives within our board are reversing that prejudice, or at least softening it a bit so that more and more students are able to see the great opportunities within the trades?
Yeah, great question. Yes, that's one of our main goals. I feel like before, even when I was in school and selecting what I wanted to do, it felt more like if you should go to university. If you can't go to university, you should go to college. If you can't go to college, you go to the trades, where instead of having it kind of up and down, it's more on an even playing field where you have those three different pathways, the college, apprenticeship and university, and it's more up to kind of your learning style or where you should see yourself in a career of what path you should take.
So is it moving in the right direction?
I think so.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
There was no new business added to our agenda tonight. Are there any announcements? Don't see any. I would like to point out on your trustee calendar of events, to remind you that we voted last year to change our board meeting in January into the 28th. So a week later than we would normally meet. So if everyone can make sure they put that in their calendar and don't show up on the wrong meeting here. And with that, I would look for a mover that we adjourn at 8:12 p.m. Trustee Johnstone, and stay home, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.